All right, welcome, my friends and lovies. Can't really call you my lovers because but my lovies. I think that's politically correct. My lovies. Here we are again for another session of the School of Love. Officially the last session, but I have a few surprises up my sleeves, so have no fear. I'll get to that a little bit later. So the question is, this evening, how to live in the light. And that's the title of the session. Live in the light forever. Forever. Is that possible? We know that light isn't always there, right? It's not something that's always present to us. We know that the sun is not always seen because it's sometimes on the other side of the planet or it's obscured by clouds. And so it seems like our connection is obscured to the light. Same thing can be said about love. That love doesn't always seem to be there. At times it seems obscured. Or we have gone into a dark place. Perhaps I've had a dark night of the soul. But there's always a return, a new cycle of light and a new cycle of love. And we could say that humanity now is entering a new cycle, a new era, and a new potential for a new relationship to the love of the light. And this is what the School of Love has endeavored to magnify over the last 20 sessions. And here in the 21st session, which we began back in the fall. We began this series back in the fall and autumn, and now crescendoing here with the third series. We have this question regarding this potential of love. Can we really land love forever? In the previous session, I asked the question, what does it take to open your heart in a non-dysfunctional, non-codependent, centered, balanced way, a safe way? And in that session, I showed you a schematic of the big picture. And I'll hand this out in a minute. Got handouts here. The big picture, which I fit all on one 8.5 by 11, of how we humans as transitioning beings are in the middle of something very, very big. And that we need to become more mindful of the spiritual nature behind life, behind the universe. And that through love, we can re-merge with this spiritual nature of everything, or what I like to call the it of the all, to connect with the it of the all. And of course I use the word it, IT, as an acronym, meaning the intelligent telos. Telos is the word that Aristotle used to refer to the creative intent behind everything. And so we're on this cosmic adventure, this awesome cosmic adventure to wake up to this it, this intelligent telos, to work with it, to communicate with it, and to be an important participant with it, because it is in our design to do that, and it is part of the planet, as I like to call it, the plan of the plant-like planet, is that we are very big participants in this. And I also pointed out an important component of our awakening is love. That love needs to be the leading edge to our awakening. And of course, not just the garden variety love, puppy love, family ties love, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of love. But as the Beatles called it, love, love, love. They got it. The big love with a big L. And this big love is, of course, selfless love. selfless love, a love that transcends the self, goes beyond egotism, egoism, and any kind of self-seeking. It's not what we usually think of as love. We usually think of love as something where we see someone, they attract our attention, we think, oh, that might be nice to have them around, might make a nice mate, someone to serve my needs while I serve their needs. Yeah, I mean, that's all fine and good, but we're talking about a bigger love, a selfless love. These other kinds of loves are really largely based on desire and still some egotism, where we're looking for something for ourselves. And as I said, that's fine. That's part of our makeup as well, to have a certain self-centricity, to take care of ourselves. But we're talking about evolving into something that can go beyond that as well. And so that's what this love, love, love is about. It's a threefold love where our thinking and our feelings and our will are aligned with something higher than the ordinary self. It is a love from a place where you as a self are so strong, you can actually put yourself aside at times. You put yourself aside. You're so strong as a self that you can put yourself aside and be with the other, be it an other person or an object or an event, that you can put yourself aside and be completely present to it, so it informs you of what it is and not just your filters of lower self. And this higher activity really comes through from the higher self, which is a new nature. It's a new nature that humanity is trying to evolve into. It is something we're trying to birth from within ourselves. As I've said before, we're kind of caught in the middle, transitioning. We've got a mineral body, we've got a plant nature, we've got an animal nature, and we've got a human ego. And we're transitioning from these lower impulses, staying connected to them, but we're trying to connect to higher levels of being, referred to as the higher self. And it's through this spiritual birthing. I loved how everybody's talking about yonis and wombs and expansion and pregnancy, because we're all pregnant spiritually. The planet is pregnant spiritually, waiting to give birth to something higher. And this is part of what's causing the sickness and the trouble on earth, is we're ignoring that the earth is also a being that is wanting to evolve into a higher state of being. And we're here to be the midwives. Together, collectively, working. So, all of evolution is awaiting this involution of a higher self. All of evolution is waiting for this involution of a higher self, so we can serve in a selfless manner all of creation. You all know that. I'm sure you all get a sense of that. You feel that in the depth of your being when you have those moments of lucidity and you go, yeah, there's something deeper to me. There's a deeper impulse than shopping or going for coffee and talking, which is all fine and well. But deeper in the waters, I'm sure we all feel a deeper calling and even a deeper sense of urgency. And that's where we're going to be able to open our hearts from, this deeper place, to come into a non-codependent, non-dysfunctional, balanced and centered place in ourselves, to open our hearts, because it will come out of aligned love. We'll be aligned. When we're going deeper in, deeper down, we'll be able to align higher up with the cosmos that created us, to be aligned and to live aligned love. So it means putting first things first, which is both the bad news and the good news, because sometimes that means changing your priorities in life, to put first things first. As the prophets of old said, in their words, love God first with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. To love God first with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's to be aligned. If we're not putting that first, then we're going to be out of alignment. We're going to be putting other things first. And in the old days of the prophets and whatnot, that was called idolatry. You put other things before God. And so we really need to have this vertical connection as the priority, a higher priority than our horizontal connections. And then our horizontal connections will work out much better because they'll be aligned. It means we're aligned with our guiding light. You could say the pole star of the self, the North Star, right? That's what the sailors and the travelers of old used to know where they were on the map. There was that one light in the sky that never moved. And we have that same thing spiritually when we connect to our guiding inner light. Because there's lots of things that would pull us off track. There's lesser lights of the world in this Maya matrix of things that would pull us out of orbit and cause destruction, including our heart center getting hurt. And so this question for this session, how to live and love all the time, forever. Is that even possible? And I'm not asking, how to be happy all the time. It's not about being happy all the time or even healthy all the time. We get sick, or be wealthy all the time. There's ups and downs, or to be high all the time. I already tried that. Doesn't work. But how to live in love all the time. How to be in your heart center, balanced and centered all the time. Forever. And then the rest of these things, like health and wealth and happiness, will be affected positively when we make this aligned love a priority. Our heart can be open as in an eternal springtime. Eternal springtime in the heart. Because the spiritual light never goes away. Not like the sun and the moon and clouds and whatnot. Because eternal light is eternal. It's always there. It's always there to be connected with. Let's do that again. Let's just take a moment. I want to repeat this meditation a few times to just, so I don't want this to be too top heavy, but to continue to connect inwardly to maintain that balance. So again, closing your eyes. Just allowing yourself to be involuted, going in with your breath. And when you go into the inner space, the inner womb, the inner yoni, find a point in space and focus your attention on that. This little pinpoint of light. And as you focus on that pinpoint of light, let it just grow in its intensity, its strength, its brightness. And think to yourself, love lives in the light. Love lives in the light. And let that point of light move to wherever it wants, maybe above you, below you, behind you. Just see where the wisdom of the light goes. And see what color comes from the light now. Don't worry about the name of the color, just be with the quality of the color. Feel it. Let it work upon you. And think to yourself, love lives in the light. Just breathe with that color. And then bringing yourself back to awareness of your body, but maintaining that inner connection. Maintaining a balance between the inner world and the outer world of the senses, so that your heart can stay open to this higher light. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, but realize that color, that's not a physical color. You didn't see that color with your senses, you saw it with your super sensible powers. That's a super sensible color. A higher form, a higher octave of color. So I just want to do a quick review of what I showed last time in the big picture, and you can pass these around. Anybody who wants to have one of these, you can keep it. The big picture on 1 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to share the screen. Yes, the big picture. Yeah, just a quick review, because this really is showing the stages of graduation in the evolution of consciousness. So beginning at the bottom, starting at the bottom was the it of the all, the intelligent telos, the intelligent purpose of the creative cosmos. And the second step, the human was just an idea, an image, some intention of the it. So the idea, the human, is merged within it. We were a seed self. Third step, the human is then thought into existence. You could say the cosmos, the it of the creative cosmos, thought us into an existence. We are an expression of its intelligence. We are like a thought form. Then the fourth step, it thinks in I. The human in a dreamy state, kind of like a shamanistic state, if you've ever done any shamanistic work. In that dream time where the it thinks in us, the thoughts produced in us are coming from it. We're not actually generating our own thoughts. But then we begin to emerge as this human idea, as a growing self. And at step 5, the human I thinks on its own, without it. We come into a waking state. We become unmerged with it and become an independent self, capable of independent thought. At step 6, though, we lost that direct connection with it. We become separate from all. Not only the spiritual world and the spiritual beings that were involved in our creation, that thought us into existence, we lost that connection with everything on this plane as well. That's why we feel this separation from each other. We feel this separation from nature, because we become this independent ego being. So we feel the separateness, and it's pain. It's painful to feel alone and disconnected. And this is what's causing a lot of the problems on Earth. This sense of separation from each other, but also from the it of the all that created us. And so we're needing to move through these stages of higher knowledge, moving upward here in the big picture. The re-merging human. We need to re-merge as a self-directed, self-creating self. Starting with the material cognition, where we have cognition of the material world. We can see the material world. We see objects, and in our mind we have representation of the objects. We have our own ideas as an I. But then to step up to the next level, 8, imaginational cognition, where we live with representations and pictures in our minds. Memories. That's imaginational cognition. We have a representation of an external material object, and we develop ideas around it as our I is active. Then number 9, the inspirational cognition, where we just within ourselves work with the idea. We're going deeper into this womb, into the yoni, and further away from the material world. We're really becoming more inwardly oriented, working with the realm of ideas. That's our activity as an I. That's inspirational cognition. We work with inspirations, again coming from the it. We're re-merging with the it consciously. And then lastly, step 10, intuitional cognition, where the I can merge and unmerge through selfless love. The selfless love, which is where we have this direct empathic knowing of the it behind the all. We have this selfless love where we can step out of ourselves and have a direct knowing of it. It can speak of itself to us because we have this selfless love. So we get to the top here. The I remerges out of free will with it and all. A selfless self graduated with a PhD as a professor of love. Yes. Woot, woot, woot. This is what we're aspiring towards in the university of life. The Yoniversity. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Everybody give it up for the Yoni, the big Yoni. Mm-hmm. As somebody once said to me, you never yawn at a Yoni. No, siree, not if you know what's good for you. So, yeah, what we just looked at there is the really big picture of what the birth of the higher self looks like. That's the birthing of the higher self, going through this tunnel of love, you could say, from step 1 to step 10. The higher self born from the seed within your lower self, your lower nature. The seed is there within your lower nature already. And this is what allows us to reconnect, to remerge with the it, the intelligent telos, and to do it with higher consciousness and higher love, a selfless, devoted love. We need to have this devotion to the higher, to the spiritual nature of the universe. And as you might have guessed, this would include some meditation. Meditation. Does that anybody gag with meditation? Yeah, it's inner work, but you need to find the right kind of meditation. As you've seen, meditation doesn't have to be about turning off your mind and going still. Like, that's impossible. You cannot turn off your mind and stop it from thinking, you know? It's like if I told you, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant, okay? So what does the mind want to do? It wants to think of a pink elephant, right? We need to work with the mind, not wrestle with the mind. Oops. Gotta get back on camera here. Thank you, Archangel Michael. Yes, developing a meditative life so that we can go on this journey inward into the womb of your own being, where you can incubate your higher nature. And we're doing that. We meditated twice tonight with the wisdom or love lives in the light. Like that's an act of meditation where you're working with super sensible realities within. That's not just imagining things, that's imagination cognition. Those are spiritual realities we're connecting with inwardly. Light is spiritual beingness. So I know that modern science presents quite a different picture than what we're looking at here, and that the universe science looks at the universe largely as this cold and lifeless place. Cold and lifeless. When you think of outer space, we think of a place that is cold, except for a few warm spots here and there, right? With stars, suns emanating warmth. And that's just it. Life is cold and lifeless without hot spots here and there to make life lively and warm. And so where do we find these hot spots within a seemingly cold and lifeless universe? Can you say, me? Me! In yourself. You need to be the hot spot you want to see in the world. That is the answer to the question, how to live in love forever. You give it out. If you give out light and warmth of love, you will be a hot spot in the universe. You will be a star. You will be a sun. People thank me for what I do, for being a hub spot here in the world, for creating a safe and loving space to gather. And it's not just the loft either. I had someone yesterday thank me for the gathering at the beach and said, thank you for them being a part of the wonderful people that I surround myself with. It's like, well, for me it just happens. I put out warmth and people are attracted to it like moths to a light. We have that power within us. And that's the way human life should be. We should all be like this. We should all be hotspot hubs where the space around us is warm and safe and others like to gather there. You can be that. And how do we get there? How do we get there? Well, it's the same answer as the story I heard about someone stopped a stranger on the streets of New York City and asked, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And the stranger said, practice? Practice. In a word, practice. That's how we get there. That's how we become a hub spot, a hot spot in the world. Practice. Practicing meditation, practicing all sorts of inner development techniques and so forth to cultivate the higher self within the lower self, within the womb of the self. So, yeah, over these 21 sessions of the School of Love, I've endeavored to communicate whatever wisdom and light that I've learned in the School of Love and the School of Life on how to practice. In the first series, I painted a picture, a different picture from science. One of you as an individual ego being, born of the universe, to be two things: a bearer of consciousness, but also an individual ego being to be a bearer of love. The two go hand in hand. The two go hand in hand. Consciousness and love. They go hand in hand in your hands and in your hemispheres of your brain and in the duality of your head and your heart and in the threefoldness of your thinking, your feeling, and willing. They go hand in hand in you. And this is a big part of the Planet, which is why you are a big part of the Planet. And in the first series, I also painted a picture of how the number one reason we are here the reason to live, is to become a free being. To become a free being, or a free ego being, which I like to call freego. Be a freego. That is what we're working toward, what we're laboring for in the birthing of our higher self. And to do that, one of the first things we have to free ourselves from is the idea that your heart is a pump. Do you think your heart's a pump? Have you been told that? Yeah. You've been told that. You've been taught that by so-called experts that say, yeah, the heart is a pump. But you need to get that straight in your head, that this thing in your chest is not just some pump. This is actually anatomically impossible, and has been proven that there's no way the heart could be pumping as much blood as they say it does, and the blood was even moving before the heart was formed in the embryo. So, but science disregards these points, these facts, because it has no other explanation as to what your heart actually is. Because they're at the level of material cognition. That's where science goes. It hits a ceiling of material cognition, and they can't see beyond it. But your heart is not a mechanical pump. It is a multi-leveled organizer, an organ of perception. You know that. Your heart speaks to you. It tells you things. It takes in information. And it sends out information on multiple levels, including the physical, but more beyond the material. It also gives you dreams, gives you imaginations, gives you inspirations, gives you intuitions. It's working on all these levels of cognition. And at the core of the heart's work is the circulating and flow of warmth throughout the body. Right? We know that on a physical level, that it's circulating this warmth throughout the body. But this warmth is actually the original warmth of the cosmos. The original warmth of the cosmos that created us now runs in our veins. How great thou art. Thou. How great thou art. I'm not even singing how great thou art. I'm saying how great thou art. You've got the warmth of the cosmos that created us running in your veins. It's still there. Because everything started with warmth. And you're holding it. It's circulating through you. It's circulating into you. It's circulating through you. It's circulating out of you. It's living in your blood. So actually your blood contains both love and consciousness. Blood is also an organ, an intelligent organ, just as your heart is an intelligent organ. And to keep things aligned with the cosmos, the heart is also a vortexer. It sends the flow of warmth and information and blood in a spiraling vortex motion through your arteries. Spiraling, vortexing, because that is the fundamental shape, movement, motion of the universe. You see that. Our galaxy is spiraling. And the warm blood is spiraling within you. How freaking aligned is that? Take a moment to appreciate that. Woot, woot, woot. How great thou art. How great thou art. This is an open secret. This is what Goethe would call an open secret. It's very knowable to know this stuff. It's knowable if you develop your higher capacities of knowing, which ironically means developing the higher capacities of your heart. You'll know more about your heart if you develop your heart. Because this heart is a central organ of knowing. And it will lead us into a power-filled future where love and consciousness can go hand in hand. How great that would be. We have a lot of powers on this planet, powers in many forms, but nothing is greater than the power of love. It is actually the power of powers. It stands above all other powers. And this is more than some poetic notion. Because without love working within us as a moral force, as an inner moral guide, there is a risk of abusing all other powers. We see that, you know that. What is going to guide us? What is going to guide us in the use of all these other powers that we're discovering and will continue to discover? And some say this is what took down the lost continent of Atlantis, if you believe in that, was an abuse of power because they lost their heart forces. They became so psychically powerful, so powerful and using magic, but it turned into dark magic because the light of love in the heart to guide the use of these powers got lost. And so the continent got lost. Down she sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. So we need love-based consciousness working within us that will respect others, respect the freedoms of others. We see each other as beings that have their own personal autonomy. So we'll respect that out of love. Respect is love. But we'll also see that everything else and everyone else is also a part of you. It's not only separate, but it's a part of you. So you will not want to do anything to anyone else that you would not want done to you. And that, of course, is known as the Golden Rule. Did you say that? What did you say? Karma, yes. Yeah. Karma, yeah. That's kind of an Eastern term for it, and the Golden Rule is...
I was going to say eye for an eye.
Well, that's the old law. That was the old law before the law of love. That was the eye for an eye and a tooth.
More of a negative term.
It is. It is. Yeah. The law of karma is an interesting subject, and can't really get into it so much now because it's important to understand. But this eye for an eye idea, as Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. The law of what's the word? Well, basically revenge doesn't work. So the law of love now, because we're into a new era, we're into the new age, the new mystery, where love is the law. And we shouldn't even call it a law. We call it a law because it replaces the old law, so we talk of the law of love. But I don't think people really want to think of themselves living under a law, right? That was necessary in past ages where spiritual teachings were presented as laws of morality, do's and don'ts. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. But we're evolving, we're growing up, we're maturing. And so now these moral codes of the past can be seen more as guidelines that were shaping the moral heart of our ancestors. But now we're more interested in living a love-based consciousness. So the main concern really is what to do with your mind. What to do with your mind when your mind gives you trouble, right? Isn't that basically the biggest trouble in the world, is dealing with your own mind? Yeah, because the mind is a good servant, but it's a lousy master. So we really need to learn how to be masters of our own mind. And I taught this in the first series, how the renewed mind is the key to power. The renewed mind is the key to power. When you get active with your own mind, which is nous in Greek, take a hold of your nous by renewing the phronemas, that's the word for thoughts in Greek, the phronemas that go into your nous. When you find a renewal of your mind, you'll see that that is a portal to power. Your mind is actually a portal to power when you renew the thoughts that you hold into and you put into it. There within yourself, you have this key to unlock all that lies within you that's asleep, dormant, and awaiting for you to turn the key, renewing your mind. This is what's going to set you free. Right? That's the number one thing we're here to do, is to set ourselves free. So you set yourself free from the prison cell of your lower self. And the biggest kicker in all of this is that the latch to the prison door is on the inside. It's on the inside of the door. And all you need to do is open it when you renew your mind. The key to power, the portal to power. And let out the higher self that awaits you to live in and through you. Then in the second series, as you can see, I'm doing a little review here of what we've covered over the 21 sessions, just a brief thing here. The second series was called Love in Action. Not love in action. Love in action. We looked more at practical skills for making love. Right? Quite literally, making love. Because love will not exist on this plane of existence if we do not make it ourselves. We need to be making love all the time. Everybody's like, woo, okay. All right, how are we going to do that, Jesse? We need to be passing out love all the time. And if someone gives you love, you need to learn how to receive love, right? Giving and receiving. And if you're blocked in receiving love, then you need to work on those blocks. You need to take those blocks and turn them into a bridge. Turn blocks into bridges between your heart spanning over to the heart and warmth of another. So in series 2, we looked at ways to put love into action, like love is listening. Talked about love is listening and hearing. Not only listening, which is one thing, but to actually hear another person and to make them feel heard. This takes learning skills. And so love is learning. Love is learning as well. Love is also making an intercessory presence for others. We looked at how to hold careful, prayerful space for others who need an intercessory presence to help them. Love is also about speaking up. Love is speaking up to share with others things that will build and edify them. We need to pass to others ideas, thoughts from it and the all that will build each other rather than tearing down and destroying one another. And in the last session of series 2, we saw that when we do this, we become unstoppable. Unstoppable, because love is unstoppable. Love is the greatest power of all powers. Love is unstoppable. So we are unstoppable, and we can live in love forever. Then series 3. Series 3 focused primarily on the nature of the higher self. And there's no way around it. If you want to love with a higher love, you will need to birth your higher self. Trying to love with higher love from a place of an unrefined lower self is like sticking a pretty dress on a corpse and saying, here I am, love me. No, you can't just dress up your lower self and hope to fool others into thinking you're living from a higher love of a higher self. No, don't dress up the corpse with a pretty dress. In the schematic I just showed you that illustrated the journey and the gradations or graduations of consciousness, we all must travel from a place of being merged in the it, then becoming unmerged, separate, someone who can think for themselves and stand on their own feet spiritually, then ultimately becoming consciously remerged, requires your participation in the university of the universe. And these are graduations in the consciousness of the universe. This is actually graduations in the consciousness of the universe, which is seeking to become alive in you. The consciousness of the universe seeks to wake itself up inside of you through these graduations. And I find it interesting in our educational system, if a person is seeking to move through the graduations of the university system, what's the first degree that they achieve? You guys went to university. Matter of fact, you just both graduated with a what degree?
I have a bachelor's. He's in the master's program.
Ah, right. Okay. First degree is bachelor. Bachelor. First level is a bachelor. Why is it called bachelor?
Not enough love to have a partner.
Well, yeah. It literally means that you have not yet merged and married with the subject of your studies. You're still at the introduction level. You're just getting to know. You're just courting the ideas you're studying. So your degree is a bachelor. You're still separate from the merging with the material of your study. It isn't until you continue your education that you're able to achieve the degree of the master, which is Sean just graduated with a master's degree, which means he has some mastery, that he is getting engaged. He's gone from being a bachelor, now he's engaged with the subject material. And there's more of a serious relationship. And he's on his way to merging with it as a master of it. But that is not where the university education ends, nor is it where the education in the universe ends. The highest degree is that of a PhD, which stands for Doctor of Philosophy. You become a doctor, which means you are a practitioner. You have a practice, and you practice what you've learned. And the reason this highest degree is called a Doctor of Philosophy is because philosophy, or philosophia in the Greek, means that you have a relationship, full-born relationship with knowledge, with wisdom. You have a relationship with Sophia. You're married. Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. So you are considered married with the knowledge of your field of study. And not only are you in a relationship with Sophia, you love Sophia. Philosophia, love of wisdom. You are a lover of wisdom, and you have achieved the highest degree. Not like as a dentist or some medical practitioner, but a doctor of philosophy. You are merged with consciousness. And you are an independent ego being in the university of the universe who has a love-based consciousness. Love-based consciousness. And this is the reason is required for the highest gradation in order to achieve this highest level of graduation, is because we can't truly know something we don't love. You can't truly know something that you don't love. There has to be love. And conversely, you can't truly and fully love something that you don't know. So knowing and loving go hand in hand. This has been the thesis of this thing from the very beginning. And if you think you can know without loving, you're really just knowing the outer shell of it. You're not penetrating into it. You're not having a spiritual intercourse with it, where it opens itself to you and reveals itself to you because of this bridge of love and warmth between you and the it of the all. And when you get there, when you get to that highest gradation and ready for graduation, that's when you can take up the title and position of Professor of Love. You can be conferred as a Professor of Love. And to be a Professor of Love means that you profess love. And to profess love means you're going to speak about love. You're going to share love. You're going to put it out into the world. And so this idea of these gradations is kind of a model I use in the courses that I offer under the banner name of Power for Conscious Living. I'm going to do a little spot here on the courses that are offered because there's things coming up. We call them all Power for Conscious Living or powerforconsciousliving.com. And yeah, there's 3 levels, 3 gradations. We've got one coming up. Well, we've got a few coming up. We've got another spiritual boot camp starting in September. It's going to be Wave 10. Yeah, a decade of spiritual boot camp, Wave 10, where we give a well-rounded bachelor degree, if you will, on the spiritual life, the sexual life, and the social life. Skills in all 3 areas to help people get aligned and on the highest level possible as a human being. So learning how to meditate, working with the chakras, working facilitation skills, communication skills, relationship skills, all sorts of great stuff. We got some people here that are in it, that are doing it. Anybody want to share their little tidbit of what you're getting out of it?
It's amazing.
Nice.
I would take it again. Like I would like redo it. Like yeah.
Cool.
Do it all over.
Well, on that note, there's also the advanced training that will be starting in September, and that's for anybody who's done the spiritual boot camp. And it's a continuation, so going deeper into spiritual teachings and practices and circle work and transforming yourself from the inside out. And then there's also a 3rd-year program called Higher School, where you get higher education. Kind of the PhD level, I'd say, where you really learn to merge more with wisdom. But what's key at the higher school level is the balance that's developed between looking out into the world while keeping an eye on the inside, the third eye, you could say, so that you're constantly cultivating your inner life while simultaneously seeking to serve outwardly in the world. So in this 3rd-year program, people develop their own initiative to go out into the world, to create something out of their own passion, out of their own dream, and so forth, while continuing to develop their inner capacities. So we learn to really have the balance of a foot in each world, on each side of the threshold. Because balance is so important. Imbalance is really the cause of so many problems in the world. It's the cause of problems in your body. If there's imbalances in your body, that causes ill. If there's imbalances in society, it causes ill. And imbalance is really the root cause of evil. So I also wanted to mention this is officially the last session, but I'm going to do not just one, but two bonus sessions before I take my summer break from teaching. But people expressed interest in knowing more about the 12 senses. That's right, 12 senses, not just 5. But yeah, in the description by Rudolf Steiner, he talks about 12 senses, which leads not only our material senses, our physical senses, but our super sensible powers, We have supersensible powers that we're using all the time. We don't recognize them as senses, as supersensible. So yeah, next week I'm going to unpack that. So more School of Love, more party time, more woot woot woot. Uh, well, it's important, these 12 senses, because a lot of what's causing mental illness in the world is people not developing their psychic powers. If you got psychic powers, we all have psychic powers, but if you don't recognize them and cultivate them, that's going to cause psychic sickness, psychic sickness. They call it mental illness, but it's really psychic sickness that people are suffering from. And then we call them crazy, right? But no, a lot of it is just aberrant activity of psychic powers that need to be managed and mastered. And then the other bonus session in 2 weeks is looking at the esoteric side of Christianity. People have expressed interest in that because I bring that in from time to time. So it's going to explain the difference between what you encounter in conventional Christianity, which some people call churchianity, in contrast to aspects of the more hidden or esoteric secrets. Someone once asked Rudolf Steiner what he thought of Christianity, and he said, "It's never been tried yet." Like, the true esoteric aspects of the teachings have really not been fully realized in the world. And so a lot of people have a negative reaction to the historical and political aspects associated with the development of the church in the first 2 millennia, since Christianity became the official religion of Rome, right? And then Rome went and dominated the world using Christianity as its religious flag. And so this is really kind of thrown people off understanding the esoteric side. And during that time, a lot of the true spiritual teachings were pushed underground. They had to be kept in secret by secret societies to preserve some of this real essence of the teachings. But when you look at the esoteric knowledge, the hidden knowledge, one sees that this is not meant to be a religion at all. Christianity is not a religion, but it was the introduction of a new evolutionary force, a new spiritual force into the world that would awaken dormant aspects of our being, and in particular, the powers of the heart, through the power of love. Because that is something that distinguishes the message of the Christ from the previous spiritual teachings, was this law of love, that love was meant to be the guiding force. Not an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth, not moral codes, not just breathing exercises and yoga and things to prepare the body, prepare the mind. It was a step forward where now you have a new evolutionary force within you to guide you from within. So we're going to be looking at, some of the real essence of the esoteric teachings. Something I've been interested in all of my seeking life, and I'll also be bringing some insights from Rudolf Steiner as well. And on that note, speaking of the prophets of old, people who wrote portions of the Bible, were actually professors of love. One in particular is John, who wrote the Gospel of John and wrote also some letters, epistles. And so I want to round off this session, not with my words, but with some lofty words from ages ago spoken by the professor of love, John, from the 4th epistle of John. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. I love this because John is making this connection between knowing and love. and how this consciousness is needed to know God. I'll continue reading this, and of course, you can replace the word God with whatever you want, something else, like I do. I call it it, right? IT, the intelligent telos. If we love one another, God, it, abides in us, and love has been perfected in us. But this we know, that we abide in God and God in us, because God has given us the Spirit. And we know the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God in them. And love has been perfected within us, in that there is no fear in love. But perfect love casts out fear. Fear is torment. Whoever fears has not been made perfect in love. And to point out the fact that these biblical stories really contain rich archetypal information that portray these gradations of consciousness evolution or spiritual evolution, that there has been an evolution spiritually of spirit rolling out into matter, and now matter wanting to give birth to spirit. And so, yeah, these references to stories of Moses, and the burning bush, and the burning bush was on the outside, right? So there was no merging. So yeah, like Moses was at the bachelor level of this merging with the it of the all. And then, yeah, with Jesus, a further merging. And then now, who's the light of the world? You are! Nobody else is going to do the job. It's wide open. You are the light of the world. We need to be fully merged with the light of the world in us. There's no burning bush that I've seen around in Trinity Bellwoods Park or anywhere else. It's us that have to speak out of the burning heartness of the higher self that's erupting and emerging and coming to life through higher cognitive activity. Yes, doctors of philosophy. All right, the love assignment for session 7. Number 1, leap in the air for no reason at all. The Greek philosopher Plato long ago recognized that in addition to eating, drinking, sleeping, breathing, and loving, every creature has an instinctual need to periodically leap up into the air for no other reason than because it feels so good. So love assignment number 1 is to do that. Periodically leap up into the air for no reason other than it feels so good. Okay, can you do that? All right. Number 2, fashion yourself for eternity. Every choice, big or small, may look like a choice that is big or small, but how do we know if a choice is big or small? That is just your perception of it. Treat every choice as a big choice, knowing you are forming yourself through your choices and the actions that proceed from those choices. When you do everything, big or small, with love, know you are fashioning yourself for eternity. Through your choices, you are shopping for eternity. So shop wisely and live in love forever. Number 3, put the School of Love on your playlist. Review the School of Love. You can do it with direct attention, sitting, watching, and listening to it, or you can have it running while you're doing something else, like cooking or cleaning, or walking or biking. Either way, your mind can absorb its contents. Feed your mind, renew your mind, and grow your heart. Reviewing the School of Love. And number 4, can you guess? Ruckshao. Continue doing the Ruckshao. That's a review of your day. At the end of the day, towards the end of the day, you review your day in reverse. It's like the number 1 practice we teach in the spiritual boot camp is this daily backward review, seeing yourself from an objective perspective. Like, yeah, there I am, Jewel. I'm like at the beach and we're dancing to music and getting a Kundalini massage. I had a great Ruckshow last night. It was like my Ruckshow went like for 45 minutes. I'm not kidding you. I was like, oh, it was such a rich day. Like everything, being outside, swimming, just hanging out, with cool people at the beach. So yeah, this is a practice to do every day for the rest of your life. All right.